under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I do notice a supplemental personnel report, any modifications to the agenda that I don't know about. Are we good, Brad?
You can add the supplemental, right?
Right. If somebody could do that. Or?
Sure. I'll suggest we add it to the consent agenda so that it'll be, we'll add it as 3D little 1 to add the supplemental.
Right, exactly. All right. We want to make sure that this is done correctly. Anything else, anyone tonight? We're good? I'm so glad to get started. Receiving and hearing of delegations, and we do have a few signed up. Sue?
Yeah.
There you go.
So I'm here to give the EILC Equity Inclusion Leadership Council report. And a couple of things that we've been involved with lately has been working on getting the word out about the budget. And I'm sure many of you know we co-hosted with the PTA budget information session with Dr. Brown and BJM. And some of our members have been working with the Budget Reform Committee and some of the road shows. And so that's been an important part of our effort. And we've been having sort of ongoing conversations about how to become more involved with moving the equity goals forward. So EILC as a group feels that we have a fair amount of expertise and experience that could help the district work toward the goal of eliminating help me out here. Race class. Thank you. You guys know what I mean. And in some of our brainstorming, one of the ways we felt we could be more helpful was to become involved earlier in the process of policy making, either bringing people to the table or bringing a perspective to the table. And the current system, as we kind of understand it, is that when the board or members of the superintendent staff are putting together a committee or a subcommittee, usually fairly quickly a request for participation will go out, and we may get an email or something that says we're forming this and could someone come to a meeting, you know, on a good day next week. Sometimes it's in a few days, sometimes it's in a couple weeks, and it's often hard to respond. And we also felt that if we could find out ahead of time what kind of policies were going to be addressed, say for a given year, then we could best use our talents. You know, if I feel like I have spare time that I want to dedicate to this cause, and the discipline committee is looking for participation, but that's not really my thing. I'm more an assessment person, but I don't know if assessment's got something coming up, you know. So we really feel like the best way, not just to just involve EILC people, but to involve all community members. One model is to try to get together a list of what are the committees, what are the subcommittees or the task forces. I mean, there's a lot of confusion in our meeting exactly where they are and what's going on. And could we get that information, say, in the summer for policies that are going to be reviewed for the coming year, so that people with expertise and experience in certain areas could then decide that they had time and energy to vote to a certain issue that best fits what their experience is. And so we have asked, and I'm actually not sure if this is happening right now, for a list of current and proposed committees, meeting schedules if that's possible, and what policies might be under review by those committees and the person who might be in charge, so that we can more systematically approach community involvement. And again, not just for EILC, but I think for all community groups. And I know that Dr. Brown is going to spend some time getting ducks in a row this summer, and so we would really encourage you to sort of take that into consideration. And if such a system could be developed over the summer, I think it would really enhance the skills that people throughout the whole community could bring. So that's what we've been talking about.
Thanks, Sue. Looks like Bob Bergman.
Bob Bergman, drive for the City School District in my 11th year. I'm here really in behalf of a fellow bus driver, Dave Payton, which you probably may know the name or not. But he lost about a year ago. He had to forfeit his CDL license and for a year, which he did, and he got it back now. And they have not rehired him. I worked with him personally over the summer. He's an excellent young man. He's a good kid, and he just made a slight mistake. And I feel that, you know, I'd like to see him rehired, as most of the people down at the transportation department also feel the same way, that, you know, he should be rehired. And that's what I'm here to ask, that you at least reconsider. I've worked with him personally. I like the guy.
Thanks, Bob. Anyone else that's in the room? Okay. Student reps. Helen wasn't here last time and was off visiting some other, like Ivy League schools, which we won't mention, but go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, sorry, I was at Brown last time I was here, so...
I never could get Brown, but go ahead.
So just a few things that have gone on at IHS was we had in our government classes a discussion and a survey about the code of conduct, which I thought was really well done and it was really helpful. And I think when we started using like technology of using our cell phones to do polls, and I thought that was something really good that teachers could take advantage of, because students already have their phones and they're going to be using them anyways. And when we use them as an interactive part of a lesson, it was really helpful. The musical went well. I'm sure everyone saw it and heard about it, but it was a lot of fun, and the collaboration with the people from the Hangar Theater went really well, and as a member of Tech Theater, I know we learned a lot, and it was great. Right now at the high school, everyone's kind of either gearing up for AP season, APs start next week, or they're kind of chugging along, getting to the end of the year, a little senioritis going on, but yeah, just a few events to make people aware of. This Thursday at 7 o'clock on the Commons, the Swiss Strong Women Impacting Society are helping host Take Back the Night, which is to raise awareness about sexual violence in the community and the world and how it affects people. And if anyone would like to participate, they can join us on the Commons at 7. And Rock the Arts is also happening this Saturday on the Commons, which is a music and art festival put together solely by high schoolers in the region, not only from Ithaca High School, but from Trumansburg, LACS, Lansing and things. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's a lot of local student bands in it, and it's great to go support them. And the last thing is, IHS is really proud of our Electrothon car team that won third place for novices at the Watkins Glen Raceway recently, and we'd really like to thank the board for supporting the technology program at the high school. And it's just one of the other things that really shows how hard the kids are working.
Exactly. Accommodation then, that's for sure. It's not a question whether I like Brown or not, Helen. How was was it a good visit?
It was a good visit.
LACS.
All right. Over April break, a group of around 20 LACS students traveled down to Washington, D.C. for a conference called Power Shift. It's a conference kind of empowering youth to activism in terms of sustainability and social justice. Speakers at the conference included former Vice President Al Gore and Van Jones and author and environmental activist Bill McKibben. And from what I hear from students who went to that, couldn't attend, but they seemed really empowered and like it was a great learning experience. So that was really interesting, and I hope to go to that next year. Also, in the coming weeks, the next 2 weeks on Saturday, there will be chicken barbecues supporting LACS trips. I think the first one coming up is to support the Niagara Falls trip on this Saturday, and in a week from Saturday there will be one supporting the canoe trip, and they are at Agway on Saturday in the afternoon and late morning. All the chicken is, as decided by our school, one of the most, I think, overwhelming majorities that our ASM has ever decided to make them chicken that we serve organic and local and free range. So we'll have that in the next coming Saturdays.
And another event is a benefit concert at the shop benefiting the Akwesasne Freedom School, which is up in Messina, New York. It's on the border of Canada and United States, so half of the reservation is in Canada. And that is from 2 to 5 on Saturday. Lydia Garrison is going to be there. Bear Fox, who is a native Mohawk singer, is going to be there. Kenny Winstein and Hannah Kinsella are going to be performing. They're 2 students from our school. And Kevin Kinsella, her dad, which will be really fun. So you guys should come to that. And then ACS is also marching down to take back the night, so we will be there as well, where our GSA is doing it. And then we'd just like to thank you again for really supporting the ACS's cafe, because the students are finally back, and so we're really excited to have them back, and everyone is super, super excited to have that piece of ACS again. So thank you guys, and that's all.
Great, thanks. Board responses? Anyone with an opinion about Brown except me? Go ahead.
Since I work at another institution altogether, I'm higher at the moment. A quick response to the policy vote. This is the first year that the ICSD Board of Education has created a policy committee. In years prior, the policies came from various committees, sort of bubbled their way up to the board, and the board dealt with them as need be. I was unanimously elected by my fellow policy committee members to serve as chair for the policy committee. There's a couple things that are taking place. One, there is a rough list created for some policies for the semester, but with the transition with new leadership in Dr. Brown, we're giving some time for Dr. Brown to get his feet wet and to sort of go through the policies and look to see what's needed. In the interim of that, I've taken it upon myself to look through the policy book, and the policy committee just decided at our last meeting that we will probably go through the policy book from 0 up through the 9,000s. It's a policy book about 600 pages. It's completely outdated. There are policies in there that are 40, 50, 60 years old, some that use language that is possibly offensive. We're going to do a good job of cleaning up our policy book. So with respect to EILC and other folks who may want to participate, know that at any point in time, any public member of ICSD of 18 years or older, even students can bring policies to the board, can recommend changes, can recommend revisions. They don't need to wait for the board to, in other words, it can be far more proactive what you can find. We're also, the board has been trying to decide what sort of electronic warehousing platform we're going to be using, realizing that a good number of our constituents have access to the internet and to the web, to put things up not just similar to board agendas, but also committee agendas, committee minutes. People can't oftentimes attend meetings but want to see what the minutes are. We have not as of yet decided on that. We're still waiting for one more presentation. With some of these issues, I fully expect to be resolved when we have that platform, and at any point in time, any given day from anywhere in the country, someone can go and click and see what the next agenda is, see what's talked at the last meeting, to do items and things of that nature. So some of these suggestions we're out working on. Others of them were phenomenal suggestions. We'll take a look at them and try to make them happen. I would probably say, just responding immediately, that policy list a year in advance is probably unlikely. It's not sort of the way in which the school district works or this works, but know that we're going to be going through the book, I think, relatively thoroughly to make sure to revise most of our policies, at least while I'm on the board, if I decide to run again afterwards. So, thank you.
You're not going to do it all in 1 year?
I was thinking about making it a second dissertation and doing it all over again. We'll see.
Any other board comments?
I didn't get from, excuse me,
No,
from Ellen, when the band thing was?
Rock the Arts is taking place afternoon, so like anytime. I think the first band plays at 12:30 all over the Commons on Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yes, this Saturday.
Oh, okay. And we should note that the chickens are giving their lives for the barbecue.
Yes.
Yes, they are. But they're
But
They had happy lives before that.
happy chickens.
That's even worse.
There has to be.
They ran
We're moving, Mr. President. Moving.
They have the best face.
Yes.
I think we've done enough chickens, so I think we're on
I'll move
to
to
consent agenda. Thank you.
Second.
Any questions regarding a long list of change orders? Anything else?
No, with the exception of, I know that our personnel report includes tenure for our, yes, thank you, tenure promotions for some of our well-deserved faculty, and congratulations to those folks who that applied to today.
I would echo that. Any other questions regarding the consents? All in favor? That's everyone. And Dr. Brown, I think we're ready.
Sure, and I'll be brief. I would like to echo, continue that saying congratulations to all the folks who are earning tenure for the district. And also to respond, my feet are wet, and I'm on number 8,234, by the way.
In the policy book.
In the policy book.
I'll wait for your notes.
Yeah, I'll do my notes. But just plug two events that are coming up, and you kind of show them. The first is the next commendation ceremony will be held on June the 14th at 5:30. We're hoping to fill the auditorium with deserving students and adults who are part of our district, and we're going to be recognizing everything from co-ed robotics to outstanding academic achievements in individual classrooms. So again, June 14th at 5:30, we'll be recognizing and we'll have a commendation ceremony. And this flyer I'm passing around is a plug for IPEI and the PTA, who's sponsoring an event on Thursday night. Now, you've heard about this before, but I'm hopeful that you will be there in support of the efforts as we look to roll out a strategic approach to engaging today's and tomorrow's learners. So we're thinking it's going to be about an hour and a half with some time for discussion and questions and refreshments afterwards. So an opportunity to engage the community and speak about the work that we're already moving forward and what we see as a vision for the Ithaca City School District and the community.
And there will be food.
And there will be food.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anything else, Dr. Brown?
That'll be all for me.
Thank you, Lavelle, and frankly on to school district business, and I think you're right back up, Dr. Brown.
Sure, and I was like, Dr. This so good, Dr. Myers. Yeah, Dr. Myers is going to come on.
We would echo that as well.
Yeah.
We're echoing a lot.
And you'll notice that Dr. Myers is using a match as well. But
I was directed.
Tonight is a first attempt, and while the format will evolve, this will be our first effort at a work session format. We envision tonight being about 60 minutes or 90 minutes around a particular topic. Tonight is strategic planning. But going forward, it'll be around topics such as POC, teaching and learning frameworks, human capital work. The key initiatives of the district, things that you're going to be asked to make decisions on, or just know more about as we build capacity in our organization. We'll have work sessions to dig deeper into those concepts, those strategies. We'll bring folks to the table, folks who may be a part of the district, or folks who are coming as third-party or outside consultants of some sort. Tonight we have guests from Cornell who are going to be partnering with us on our strategic planning efforts. But again, this work session format will be part of our capacity building as an exec team, as a board, as a community, as we roll out some of the work. You also asked that we come back to you tonight with some timelines, and we're going to be putting in front of you where we see some things happening over the next couple of months. But, well, I'll just go back to, I didn't know I got there already, some key hedgehog concepts, and we're going to talk more about these on Thursday night, and we're going to continue to talk about them going forward. Teaching and learning framework, POC, and human capital management. The work sessions will follow along those hedgehog concepts. Most of the initiatives you'll see come from our team and staff will be around those concepts, and we'll connect them to other goals and initiatives, resource allocation, etc. But before I get into this place, we know we have to talk about strategic planning, and we're going to talk about that tonight with you and get some feedback and sort of share what our thinking is at the time as far as moving that forward. Timelines, and this is rough, but I think there's some key dates that are going to be coming up in the coming months and some initiatives that you may wish to know about. We've had 2 professional learning community days already in which we've rolled out some of our hedgehog concepts and some vision for the work. We've actually delved a little deeper into PLC concepts as a staff. There's much more work to follow, but we've had some of those conversations. We know now and also in May that digging deep into the Common Core standards and understanding and aligning our curriculum is going to be important. We have teams, Ms. Evelyn and Dr. Myers have had many conversations with staff already around organizing work groups to get deeper into the work around the common standards and common curriculum. This summer, we will be building out our teaching and learning framework, and you'll learn much more about that as we go forward, and Thursday night we'll talk about it some more. But we have teams assembled already. We're going to be working to build that framework out. We're going to be building some assessments over the summer. We're going to have what we call a Summer Institute. And during that Summer Institute, we're going to have strands. One will be around professional learning community work, one will be around human capital work, which would include APPR concepts, and one strand will be around teaching and learning, the teaching and learning framework. And we talk about instructional strategies, we talk about engagement, we'll have some workshops and some opportunities for staff to gain more knowledge and build capacity around those things. But that will be our summer institute work, and those dates don't look right there. I mean, is it August the 1st, Ms. Evelyn?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
August the 1st through the 11th, so it'll be an extended period of time. But there may be some more concentrated time where we bring more people in for 2 or 3 days, but it will be time for a series of 2 weeks. We'll have folks to build on those 3 strands. In the fall, we'll be doing some quarterly reviews. We've spoken about the balanced scorecard approach and looking at dynamic data. We'll be bringing those reports to you related to metrics that we've established as a district, as departments, and as schools. Be looking for those things to come to you quarterly in an evolving way. And we'll also be talking in the fall and winter about some technology accelerators. We know the kind of data that we're looking to gather. We know the kind of instructional conversations we're looking to lead and have. We can't do as effectively as we may wish to do unless we have some tools, very inexpensive tools, but some tools in which we can manage the data appropriately. Push a button and get the information quickly. Some things that we already have some things in place with school tools and some other processes and systems, but we're looking to extend those or add to them in ways that will make our work a little easier. So look to hear from us about some ways we're looking to use technology tools to accelerate some of the key hedgehog concepts. But that's the next 6 or 7 months, and there's much in there that I didn't talk about, including strategic planning, which Dr. Myers is going to lead the conversation on right now. But before we move forward, any questions about any one of these things, which you've heard some about already? Timelines, questions? Yes.
In earlier schedules, had us talking about inclusion somewhere in here. Is that one of the things that's really spelled out, but it's still in there?
And we see that as part of our teaching and learning framework. As we talk about instructional strategies and best practice for curriculum development, assessment, and instruction, we see an inclusion policy as part of that. Engaging all learners, we mean engaging all learners. So what is that going to look like for us? So it will be part of the ongoing process.
Yeah, briefly, what's the board's role in this plan?
Sure. And not to offend anyone, it's going to be about capacity building just like with staff. Understanding what these things mean, yeah, there is educational jargon right now for most folks. But understanding what it's going to look like for us, I'm hoping that the board will engage in those conversations too. I'm hoping the board will be at our institute this summer as we dig deeper into what this will look like. Right now, I don't know what some of the resource allocations will look like around some of these concepts. If we're going to have to reallocate some funds in order to, I don't know, build out our assessment item bank. Or if we find a piece of technology, but I'm not saying we will, that's going to significantly move forward our human capital work, we may come to the board about reallocating some funds to do that work. So it's hard for me to anticipate exactly what the board's role is, but right now I know it's about capacity building and being able to understand this work in ways that you can speak to it when you're in the community, in ways that we can engage in deep conversations during work sessions and other meetings as well. Did I answer? All right, so I think I hit that long and hard enough. I hit that slide long and hard enough too. So that's mine.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. For those watching, again, my name is Leslie Myers. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services here in the Ithaca City School District. And one of my responsibilities, just newly discovered responsibilities, is leading the strategic planning for the Ithaca City School District. And so tonight is an opportunity really for us to come to common understanding about what strategic planning is. So we'll go through an activity and we'll define it so to ensure that we're all on the same page. We'll have an opportunity to talk about the process, what exactly is involved in strategic planning, who's involved in strategic planning. And about 3/4 of the way through the presentation, you all will actually participate in an activity that simulates what we're going to be doing when we go into the community to make sure that they're involved and they're educated about the process. So we'll be soliciting your feedback around the process, and then we'll discuss the next steps. Thanks. So I think Mr. Ainsley will be very pleased that my colleagues to my right are from Cornell.
Well, I was hoping maybe there's some guys from Brown or Dartmouth. But if you could introduce who is with you, Leslie, that would be great.
Actually, yes, I will. I have Jeffrey and Jeremy, and they're from Cornell's School of Business, and you'll see underneath each of their names just a brief synopsis of the expertise that they bring to the table. I received an email and then a phone call from Cornell University asking if the district could use interns from their graduate school to help with any type of project or initiative or process that we were working on as a district. And so immediately my eyes gleamed and I said, absolutely, as we're thinking about moving forward with the strategic plan and the strategic process, what better partnership and what better expertise to have two interns from Cornell. So Jeffrey and Jeremy are just going to briefly introduce themselves, talk to you a little bit about their expertise, and then we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Myers.
You're welcome.
So I'm Jeff Quoting. I'm a first-year Roy H. Park Leadership Fellow and MBA student at Cornell. Just a little bit about my background. I've worked in human capital consulting for many years prior to business school, specifically designing performance programs and incentive programs. So in thinking about kind of specific skills that I'm hoping to bring to this initiative, I have a lot of experience in data-driven analysis and really supporting recommendations of facts. Number two, leading conversations with stakeholders, being able to kind of build consensus, as well as synthesize the information that you get from management interviews to something that supports the goals of the organization. Number three, I have some experience designing compensation programs, identifying key performance indicators, things that are helpful in directing behavior that's aligned with the organization's strategy. So, I'm really excited to be here and really excited to work with the board and Dr. Myers and Dr. Brown on this strategic assessment.
My name is Jeremy Bowen, and I'm also a first-year MBA student at Cornell University and Roy H. Park Leadership Fellow. And I've been out for about 5 years from undergrad. During undergrad, I worked for the Massachusetts Attorney General's office in my part-time, working as a mediator for consumer cases. So I'm very familiar with leading conversations between consumers and businesses, gathering feedback from other people and interviewing them. Additionally, I worked at an insurance company for 3 years, where I was responsible for performing data-driven analysis and basically trying to consolidate that and make it into a very compelling, concise story, and also in a project management capacity. And for the last 2 years, I worked as a management consultant to the insurance industry as well. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, whereas the executive team certainly has a very impressive repertoire and wonderful experience, you can't beat this particular expertise. And the board will be pleased to know that it's free $99. That's how much it costs. But one of the things that Dr. Brown has really been speaking about and communicating and articulating, I think very well, is the importance of us partnering and building relationships with varied entities within the district and within the community. And so certainly both Jeremy and Jeffrey's expertise are really going to come in hand and be very helpful as we move forward with this process. So this is not new language that you're hearing, but it really is important that we continue to talk about the fact that if not us relative to this strategic plan, then who? It's really our responsibility to move this forward in a meaningful and concerted way. And if not now, then when? We are at a critical juncture in our district, and I'll speak a little bit about why now it's so critically important to move forward with the work that we're doing here in the Ithaca City School District, specifically relating to a strategic plan. And then if not here, then where? It really needs to happen within our community. So the very first thing that we're going to begin with, and this is an activity that requires people to be noisy, so we should be quiet during this point. But when you think about strategic planning, when you hear that, and I need you to be incredibly transparent and honest about that, what are some of the things that come to mind? Because this is an opportunity for us to really be uniform and consistent around what we're endeavoring to do and where we're heading. So, board, folks here, when you hear strategic planning, what do you think about? And let me just say before you answer, I was going to use a technology tool that I used with the students at Ithaca High School, but we hadn't asked all of you to bring your laptops and your cell phones, and so we, given that we have our equity priority, I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. So we're doing paper and pencil for now, but we will step it up soon. So when you hear about strategic planning, what comes to mind?
I think kind of the latest gimmick kind of thing.
Latest gimmick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Eyes glaze over, right? I mean, just. I'm sure there's.
How you really feel, guys?
It's not transparent, right?
Well, I was going to say dusty binder on a shelf.
Okay.
We can't see the
Well,
yellow.
it's not that much better than
Can't
I.
see it? No.
Brad, I mean,
The black is worn. Okay.
She went out.
Thank you. I've got one, Miss Evelyn, thank you. Okay. Okay, so latest gimmick. Did I hear eyes glaze over? Is that
no, you didn't. No.
Thank
Now,
you
if there were
so
some
much.
Harvard MBA guys here, I would say that, but I wouldn't say that.
Okay. Dusty binder on shelf. What else?
Oh, no, not again.
Okay. So the fact that we usually should be applying strength-based processes to the work that we do. Okay, what else?
I'm going to continue with the deficit model.
Pardon me?
I said I'm going to continue with the deficit model.
Okay.
Great words, great ideas, no action.
Okay.
Sure, and when you have meetings with the Central New York School Boards Association, where you get together with the other districts, one of the questions asked, do you have a strategic plan? And some districts certainly have them, and which is good, and okay, well, I've marked that off. We did that, got a plan. Are they a more successful district than we are? Well, probably not. So, but for them, at least they went through the process. So is it the process that is useful? Is it the plan that's useful? We're out in the community and we're at least talking about where we want to go. What's the benefit? Is it a plan that sits on a shelf, or is it the process of bringing the community into, again, what we always ask, what kind of district do you want us to build, right? I'm getting halfway serious, Leslie. So, we're community members. So, what Dr. Brown, what kind of, he's asking, what kind of district, what kind of high school, what kind of alternative high school do you want us to build? And we're going out to the community. You have to give us some feedback. Where are we going to go over the next 5, 10, 15 years? Right? How are we going to use your tax dollars? In this era of scarce resources, are we using them to the best? In the best way we can? Is there a better way to use them to get better results? Well, you have to define better.
Okay.
Is that enough? No? Okay.
I appreciate that. Anything else that people want to share? Yes, Josh.
I'm a little brought down by my identified citizens. I got to be real about that. To me, the piece that I like about strategic planning is that it gets you away from the same stuff different day. Right? If you're not planning and you're not being strategic about it, the status quo is going to win all the time. It doesn't mean that having planning means you can, right? There's a lot of dusty stuff sitting on the shelf, including actuarial tables, including, that's up to us whether it sits on the shelf or not, right? So that's a matter of will, not a matter of planning. To me, the thing about planning is you've decided what you're going after, who's going to do it, when it's going to get done, and what resources you're going to put there to do it. If we don't do that strategically, we're just going to keep doing what we've always done. We're just going to keep getting what we've always gotten. And I'm not sure, frankly, without that you can tell if we're a more successful district than other districts. We're successful for some, we're not successful for enough, right? And until we get strategic about it, we're never going to get to those goals that we have that I think are well crafted, frankly, right? But if you don't put a plan behind those goals, that becomes really dusty and empty. So it makes rhetoric real. And then it takes the will to actually make it doable. But without a strategic plan, how are you going to hold anybody accountable?
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, good. So, oh, I'm sorry.
I've actually, I've experienced both poor processes and successful ones in strategic planning, and they do go together, as was mentioned. Rob said, there's the process, and then there's the end product, and if the process isn't done correctly, then the end product is not going to have any value. And so, and it will sit on the shelf. And so, the process has incredible value. It has to be done correctly, or the product. You can't, you got to build a foundation. You can't skip any steps. And so, if it's done correctly, strategic plans end up with a plan, and it's executable. There's buy-in, there's agreement. And I just, in particular, just in my experience in businesses, which allows for pretty focused goals and plans, then implement them. I've seen them be quite valuable. The process and the finished product.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wanted to share at this point? Students, did you have anything you wanted to add? Do you want to drop some knowledge?
Yeah.
No. We're heading to 80
I don't know.
time.
When I
got
think strategic planning, I just think, it's just a bunch of words on a piece of paper.
It's a bunch of words on a piece of paper.
That's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
For one youth so young.
I wonder where she's getting that.
I want to say something positive.
I mean, come on, guys. Seriously, it's like I'm more than a little disappointed, frankly, that the first thing that folks have decided to lead with is cynicism. That's upsetting.
I don't think it's cynicism. I think it's reality when that's when you've been dealing with, in particular, working in institutions and structures. So you may see it as cynicism. Other of us see it as reality. So you gotta allow for both bits. Just because it's not yours doesn't mean it's not real for other people.
I'm not saying it's not real.
But it's not cynicism for me, is my point. You're saying it's cynicism. I'm saying the reality is I've been a part of far too many strategic planning initiatives that the binder has sat there and nothing's happened to it. So if that's what you're asking, the first thing, that's what I'm saying, right? So
this is a pre-assessment.
Yeah.
Pre-assessments are great for the teachers and the educators.
Absolutely.
Because we needed to know this information in order to put forth a process that I know how to know the end product here is going to address all of this. So thank you for allowing us to pre-assess you in a very low-tech way.
But the intent was to speak openly, correct?
Absolutely. Just going along with Dr. Brown said, it's an opportunity for us to really gauge to see where you all are, so we know really on our side the work that we need to do. And what are some educational pieces that we may need to insert or work that we need to do so we can move this forward. So it's not just a dusty binder sitting on a shelf, so that it's meaningful and it does effect change.
And I'll tell you right now, I've already learned, and I've made a note here, that we're going to change the name of it. It won't be called strategic planning. Because if it brings up this many negative connotations from folks, I don't think about what we're about to go through as any of that at all. And it won't be. But this word is evoking that kind of emotion. So we're going to change the name of it, and hopefully we'll come up with a new one with the help of our friend from Cornell.
And just to be clear, I think that whether it's the word cynicism or the negative things we have associated with that word, I can tell, we all come at it in good faith, right? The open honesty. If we really were cynical, we'd sit here and say, Leslie, I'm not even going to answer you, right? So I mean, I don't like it, and I had a negative reaction to it, but my hope is that putting that negativity on the table, saying, hey, I think it's been crap in a lot of situations, but I want this one to be better. I want this one to be something that works. So I think we're all committed to that, even though we have a negative connection with things we've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that comment, Seth, certainly. When we get a little bit further in the presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the cynicism, because certainly the board does represent the community. You represent different stakeholder groups, different factions, different entities, and you are speaking the voice of the community. So we really need to be very well prepared, well versed about how to move forward so it is received well and that we get the feedback and then that we're able to come to consensus so this can be a meaningful process for the district, for everyone involved. So just some of the components that I'd just like to just quickly share with you around strategic planning, involves all of the things and more on there. You all were sent an article home around strategic planning, and a lot of these words come from that. But I think the one that stands out most for me is really the creative thinking and the multiple lenses. Because if we could just work together as an executive team and update the board periodically around our progress, but it would only represent really 5 lenses in the district. And it would only come from an administrative perspective, predominantly an educational perspective. And we really want to have the multiple lenses that represent the unique diversity that we certainly have in our community. And we do want people to think outside the box and think creative in a creative manner as we move forward with this. So just a little bit of history, because I heard, I think, what was said here, oh no, not again, right? And latest gimmick. And so we do have a little bit of a history here with components that make up a strategic plan. So we have our Board of Education priorities that range from culture to data. So those elements are involved in a strategic plan. So we have had some movement as far as creating that component of a strategic plan. We also have our district's mission statement, which is listed up there. And many strategic plans move forward, and a mission statement and also their vision statement, which ours is all students achieving their dreams, is born out of the strategic planning process. So we have those pieces. What frankly drew myself and many of my colleagues on the executive team, including Dr. Brown, really was the fact that we had an equity report card with measurable targets, and we've made much more progress around that, but it really identified, and I consider in a very transparent way, some of the issues that we face as a community, as a district, and ways that we're trying to address that. So we have some of the components. We have been through the process, and I guess I could say, we've been there, done that in a few ways, but really we want to take this to the next level. So why now? Why are we talking about a strategic plan? And we know that about 10 or 11 years ago, the district did go through a process, and actually, one of the professors from Cornell was talking about his involvement in the development of that many years ago, over a decade ago. So let's talk about now. We have new leadership, and anytime you have new leadership, you have a new and fresh perspective. You have a new vision, you have a new direction in some ways for the district to head into. So we're at a really good point. We're changing direction. And in some instances, we're completely changing the way that we're looking at things and our focus. We have new academic expectations. You all have heard we have sent reports home, articles, briefs, memos from the New York State Department of Education that talks about the fact that because of Race to the Top, we have Common Core and we have a new set of standards that our students are expected to meet and hopefully exceed in the Ithaca City School District. So it really gives us an opportunity to look at the way that we are quote-unquote doing business and ways that we can move forward based on the new academic expectations, because we do have to change direction in the way that we're doing some of our things. And certainly those new academic expectations correlate back to the teaching and learning framework that Dr. Brown alluded to just earlier. Stakeholder engagement and community collaboration. And this is an area that we really have struggled for many years as a district. We have been told very vocally by the community that we're not transparent enough and that we're not collaborating well, or we're doing it maybe in ways that are not genuine. And so this is really an opportunity for us to show good faith that we want to partner with the community in different facets of the community and really work with them in a very meaningful way to build our world-class district that Dr. Brown has been speaking about. And one of the things, if you remember when Dr. Brown first entered, he said, one of my initial questions to folks in the community is, you talk about the fact that you want a world-class district. What exactly does that mean? And so people know that we want a world-class district, but then it gets into the, scratching my head. And we don't really have necessarily a uniform definition about what world-class means. So really, that's going to be embedded in our process. Okay, again, why are we moving towards this? Dr. Brown has very eloquently spoken about the fact that we are behind in some ways about the development, implementation of any century skills of helping prepare our students for a future that none of us has ever experienced before. So strategic components, why? And you'll notice that I have either why or how. It goes back to the comment or the statement that Dr. Brown has made over and over again. It's not us, then who. So you will see, I'll make those connections, those both statements. So why a strategic plan in the Ithaca City School District? It really does help to improve performance, because it's an opportunity for us to really look at what we're doing as a district and to figure out where are we failing, where are there gaps, and to really insert targeted benchmarks for us to move forward. Secondly, as far as countering inward and short-term thinking, we have been a district that has been very reactionary, and we've been reacting to a lot of situations, whether it's the litigiousness that exists in our community and we find ourselves reacting to that particular component, or if it's a situation, whatever the situation or the issue that has arisen. And so this is an opportunity for us to really take a look at what we're doing in the district and to really think much more long-term and to figure out what our course and direction is going to be, and to just stop trying to plug a situation with a Band-Aid and then move forward until the Band-Aid comes off again. It also helps with common direction and purpose. We do a lot of things well, but if you look at the wonderful 12 schools that we have in the district, you'll see that even though we don't want to take away from the uniqueness of our 12 schools, there's not a lot of commonality that exists, and we really need to make sure that we have an umbrella that really covers those 12 schools, so we have the opportunity to be uniform. You've heard the board members, you've heard me say, my nagging phrase is uniformity and consistency, while not taking away from the uniqueness that our schools possess. Macro level issues. It really helps us to look at the organization from, I believe what Dr. Pedro Navarez talks about, from the balcony view, and to really address all of the things that are going on across and in the district. And it certainly communicates the priorities, and that's going to be a critical piece for us to not go back to getting away from the same stuff, different day, and making sure that it's done correctly, that we are educating all of the stakeholder groups, not only within the Ithaca City School District, but within our district community. And that's going to be a critical component for us to move forward. So how do we get at this strategic plan? And I've listed 4 kind of big ideas as far as high-level objectives, increased effectiveness, performance measure objectives, and financial objectives. Many of those are self-explanatory, but really just focusing on that far left corner of really providing definitions about what we mean and making sure that everyone in the community is on the same page around those components of what we mean. So when we say world-class district, what do we mean exactly by that? And how do we measure a world-class district? Defining excellent education, what does that mean? Does that mean at least our students will graduate with 1 AP course under their belt, like they do in some communities, in some districts? Or does it mean that students will graduate and will have participated in some type of career and technical experience? So it'll really give us an opportunity to define and say, when students graduate from the Ithaca City School District, because of our particular brand and what we offer, this is what it means. And then the development of a strategic plan and engaging stakeholder groups. And again, that engagement of the stakeholder groups is something that we have kind of intermittent success with. We move forward in some particular areas of the organization. I mean, I don't want to put Bob Van Kuren on the spot, but he has really moved forward as far as human resources and moving us forward as far as garnering trust with the community and working with different stakeholder groups. So this is really an opportunity for us to engage in very thoughtful and meaningful ways with the community. So what does the process entail? What is involved with it? And you'll see that I use that Venn diagram to represent that. Our superintendent, Dr. Brown, came in with an entry plan and spoke very clearly that one of his clear objectives was really for us to move forward with the strategic plan. So he's very much so involved with this process because he's the genesis of the process, and he's the one that really is leading our ship as far as moving forward with how we want to handle this process, what is involved with that. And we'll talk a little bit later that we will be getting training, and so we can be really well versed about this particular process. Then to the right in that red ring is, you'll see written co-facilitators. And co-facilitators will involve myself as the district representative, but we just didn't want to stop with that there. We want to have someone in the community who's well respected, that can lead with me in this process, because we will be leading a group of approximately, right now we're saying about 25 to 30 individuals that represent very cross sections of our community, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And then certainly the community involvement is going to be critical. Community involvement as far as having town hall meetings, that's something that was started by Ms. Evelyn, our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, around the response to intervention process. I've used that for code of conduct. So we're going to really have to get out into the community and talk about what is going to be involved with our process. So we do this 360 communication piece of making sure that people understand exactly what it is that we're endeavoring to do. And what's nice about the community involvement piece is that it will be constant vetting. So it's not like that we're going to work in a silo over here and then really kind of cover it over and not discuss it. We're going to be very transparent about what we're doing. Updates through our website. We'll do Twitter blasts. All of the technology tools that we've been using will be utilized to communicate our work in this particular area.
Leslie, just one question.
Yes?
Typically, many districts, when you see the facilitator role,
yes,
that's the person that is hired to come in and really move this process forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gathering that we're going to do this in-house with
yes,
help of
we've been contacting
interns, but you mentioned before the
national folks, and it would cost us about $70,000 to have some of the outside companies come in and do this work for us. We're saying we can do it for much less than that in-house and have a similar level of expertise. Having gone through this process, I know I can facilitate it. Dr. Myers and I are both going to be going through a workshop in which we're going to be trained to be certified facilitators of strategic planning processes. Our connection with the MBA program at Cornell is going to be helpful. So we have enough expertise in-house to do this well, and nowhere near $7,000, not to mention $70,000.
Thanks.
Thank you. And just, I did fail to mention, under the co-facilitator, that's really where Jeremy and Jeffrey's expertise come into play. You heard their brief yet impressive resume around what they're able to do. So you heard things like consensus building, data analysis, etc. So we, even during the time when we are running the town hall meetings, we will be applying metrics to figure out the engagement level of our community to see, is there something that we might need to reteach, or do we need to do in a different way? Because this really is going to be a huge public relations and marketing effort by the district when you think about this. So I mentioned that there are 25 to 30 individuals who will be involved in the Strategic Planning Council. So who are these members? And you see them listed here. And again, we'll figure out what the appropriate ratio will be. And certainly this list could change some, or there could be an additional stakeholder group or two that would be included on here, because we really want to make sure that we're doing this well and that we have different voices at the table. And we certainly do not want to just have believers. We want to have some people who are doubters, who have that maybe cynical or negative opinion or whatever way we're going to term it, but that are not necessarily in agreement with what we're moving forward, because you need that. You can't just have everyone saying, oh, this is so great, and we're so excited to move forward with this. We need people who are going to ask the hard questions that need to be asked. That's really important around the development of the council. What you see at the bottom here is going to be a critical piece for membership, however. It can't just be that this sounds like a great idea, Dr. Brown, please sign me up. We really want to make sure that if you are involved in the council, you have one or more of these set of skills or characteristics or attributes to help us, because we don't want to just sit around and it just be rhetoric and just talk about, because what ends up happening sometimes is we talk about how bad things are or it's never going to get any better. We really want to move forward and really make this happen. So we want people that have 21st century or what Dr. Brown has been saying, any century skills. I got it, I'm learning. Organizational development, strategic planning, and out-of-the-box thinking. So that's really going to be important as far as membership on the team. So this is the part of our meeting tonight and workshop development where we want to talk to you just a little bit about what the town hall meetings, because I know I've spoken for about 30 minutes, and research says after about 8 minutes you lose your capacity to be able to really maintain the information. So I've gone 22 minutes over what the research says, I know. But we want to spend just a little bit of time really engaging with you all and doing what's called a SWOT analysis. And SWOT analysis is used in organizations. Many of you, I'm sure, know what this is, but certainly for our viewers this evening, just making sure that everyone's on the same page. That helps organizations to prepare when they're creating strategic plans to really look at what are the strengths, what do they bring to the table as far as what are we doing incredibly well. What do we say that when we go out and boast about the Ithaca City School District, what are we so incredibly proud of, and can say really without a shadow of a doubt that this is a strength, or these are the strengths of the district. So we'll spend some time talking about that, and Jeremy and Jeffrey are going to help me through this. They have some guiding questions that we'll ask as we brainstorm and get that information out. Then on the flip side though, what are our weaknesses? What is it that we don't do well? What is it that's been something that we've struggled with consistently? And even under this particular piece of weakness, we're going to talk about sacred cows too. Things that we've held on to that we know aren't good for the district, that we know aren't good for kids, but we yet and still continue to do. So on some of that, you know, some toes might get stepped on, because usually sacred cows center around adult judgments around the adult protection. So we need to talk through that and make sure that we're looking at what our weaknesses are. What are opportunities? What are pieces that are on the horizon for us? Things that we feel we're moving in a good direction as a district, that really also components that can help us move forward in good ways. But then conversely, what are threats? What might hinder this work and what might slow us down from moving forward? So we're going to just spend a little bit of time, because this is the work again that we'll be doing in those educational sessions with our town hall meetings, of going through strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So gentlemen, did you want to start off and maybe pose a question, and then we'll take them through and I'll capture it? Sure. Does that sound good?
It doesn't matter, the town hall meeting will be a type of event in which everyone will be invited.
Yes.
Not the smaller group conversation.
Yes, and we'll hold those, thank you for saying that, Dr. Brown. Those will be held not just at the sacred time between like 6 and 9 that we like to hold meetings, right? So we'll hold some that are 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning for people who can't make an evening meeting. We'll hold some over the lunch hour, and it's not just a one-shot deal. We'll be holding, I think, based on what I've read, we need to hold anywhere at least 4 or more town hall meetings to solicit feedback and educate. But we're not going to just hold it at night and just say, well, if people can't make it, that's the time that we're doing it. We really, really want to make sure that this is accessible to all of our community members.
Various locations captured
throughout the district, throughout the community, downtown, rural, you know, up on the hill, down, etc., everywhere. Yes.
Different hills.
Different hills. Different colored hills. Yeah. Okay. All right, gentlemen.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So, when I think about this, I think about what's inside the organization, what's outside the organization. Inside is your capabilities, right? What are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? Outside is the opportunities and threats. So we're thinking to kind of break this up into two pieces. The first, just get a sense as to what you think the kind of core capabilities are. And ask a very direct question, trying to get some very tangible kind of responses. So the first question that we have is, what examples of excellence in education most quickly come to your mind when you think of the school district?
Yes.
Speaking from the alternative school it's given, this district gave me a chance to not necessarily come to a traditional high school, such as the high school was someplace where I could thrive, probably better in a different environment like ACS. So the district gave me that opportunity.
Highly educated families who value education.
Opportunities outside of just the classroom, like technology and the arts and theater, all that sort of stuff that actually, at least for a lot of people, school is not the primary focus. Like a lot of academics is not what they do, but the extra things make them want to learn. So
A decent amount of wealth.
Say that again.
A decent tax base to support some of the initiatives.
And at the same time, put willingness of the population to support it.
okay. We have great teachers who actually want to teach. So
There you go.
Maybe the ability for all students to participate in all the same activities.
Could you say that again? Your voice dropped
Oh,
off.
yes, I'm sorry. The ability for all students to participate in the same activities in classes.
I just want to just interject quickly here. Again, as part of the transparency, we'll collect all of this information, we'll word process it, and as a part of our process, this will be loaded to the website so people can access it and see it if they haven't viewed it tonight, etc. So I just wanted to insert that.
Because I'd say something that was said about the whole town, I think is true for the district too, which is, although we haven't solved all the problems of the world, there's more good faith efforts to do so for our side than just about anything.
Okay.
Some of these things we may want to go back to. Some of these questions we captured as part of the superintendency search. We asked some of these same questions about the strengths and weaknesses of the districts, about being here, and so 600 some odd responses may be additional data research to mine and go through, and we can sort of get some of that stuff up. Okay. Can you ask the question again?
Yeah.
So it's really motivated by, if you want to know where you're going to get to, you know where you are first.
Sure.
And so it's really, what are some specific, tangible examples of excellence in education at the school district?
So I want to reinforce that notion about our teachers and staff, our human capital, our human personnel. So I think that sometimes it needs to be said more than once. And for me, and hearing that, Dwayne, what you said, partly what indicated for me is our 4-year to college graduation rate, or 4-year to college rate. Does that make sense? Graduation to 4-year school.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to get it. It's going to come in from here at some point in time.
See.
Yes. None of the above. I was going to get there eventually.
Okay.
I think you can measure community support also by their passing of the bond and the interest in having buildings to support the education of their children.
Okay.
The diversity of the opportunities that our students are afforded, from Code Red robotics to St. Thomas trip to Tiddlywinks Club to the paper. Just if you went through a list, we got that list of the clubs and the policy, and it was impressive.
There is a Tiddlywinks Club. That's not a joke.
yeah, I'm on it. I'm in it.
Yeah, let us know.
Tiddlywinks team.
And speaking, go alongside of that, maybe the amazing number of interagency collaborations.
Yes. Okay.
I would probably follow up with stuff a little bit, well, clubs, but the offerings for the kids, really a curriculum that is available, you know, Mandarin, Latin, you know, there's many districts in upstate New York that, you know, have to essentially eliminate their language programs. Our, the course load that you can take at Ithaca High School, if you are so willing to do, is tremendous, impressive. You know, you can, if you want to, you can go anywhere, you know, when coming out of Ithaca High School. A lot to do with our staff, the expertise of the staff, you know, certainly elementary, middle, you know, getting kids ready for the rigor of Ithaca High School. You know, we did the college search thing last year. The marketability of an Ithaca High School diploma is evident, it's real. You know, the acceptances that come in, you know, what a safety school for Ithaca is compared to others. It's, you know, but again, it goes back to how can we make that for all, for everyone, and not 40% or 50%, or, you know, and that's always our challenge.
Okay. One more, and then we're going to, two more, and then we'll move to the weaknesses.
We have a diversity that very, very few other districts have. Aside from race and class, you talk about urban, suburban, and rural as something that, you know, and living in the shadow of two institutions of higher ed. It's very rare to have all of that in one place.
That's what I was going to say, the cultural diversity of both students and teachers makes it, you have a lot of opportunity for experiencing different things.
Okay, great.
And the great weather. That's the last one, right? It's great weather.
Yeah, that was not the good one.
I did.
And also, this is important, and it's not just because I'm on it, but a committed, focused board at this point is a real strength.
All right, gentlemen, guiding question for weaknesses.
So, you know, specifically, you know, what resources are most scarce to the district? That's the first part of it. And what specific steps could be taken for the board, for the school to improve the effectiveness of physical resources that it uses, specifically, you know, books, facilities, IT, that type of thing.
Could you say the first part again?
Yeah.
Why don't we stick with the first part?
Let's stick with the first part. So, you know, what resources are most scarce to the district?
So process question for me,
Sure.
clarifying question. We're just, a typical town hall meeting, there'll be several questions as part of the
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're just doing one
We're just
of what
doing a
maybe
very
6 or
narrow.
7. So this is just a resource scarcity question, whereas it could be a process question and some other one. I got it.
Right.
But I'm not answering it. I just
State mandated constraints.
Well, state and federal.
Yeah. I was just going to say time.
Okay.
I know Dr. Brown's working on this, but the bandwidth, we have all these beautiful computers, but not enough internet bandwidth to use them.
Is Dr. Brown working on that?
Well, you said that.
I would say not in terms of like a scarcity of resources, but trying to maybe get more green and energy efficient resources.
That was a big part of the bond referendum. I mean, that was essentially a big piece. Instead of putting money into a smokestack, you're putting it, being more efficient and being able to do it in the classroom. So that's a big piece.
I'd say in the human capital area, we have 2 areas. One would be professional development, and the other would be just an HR office that's robust enough to deal with.
Josh, I apologize, you dropped off. The HR office is more robust.
We need a more robust HR office than we have.
So Bob gets the good stuff and the bad stuff at the same time. I got it. All right.
Yes.
Yin yang.
More bad stuff.
I don't know if there's a resource, but the way our district's laid out, it's very awkward. We have 2 buildings far apart. So a resource is buildings spaced properly so we don't have kids passing one building to go up to DeWitt, especially in the middle school. We have two centrally located for the area we cover. So building.
And the converse of that, elementary schools that are too far apart, that it's hard for resources to get to them and feel that they're a part of the Ithaca City School District when they're several miles out in the country, and they don't feel that they're a part of central office or the district or the community. Geography, with that lake in the middle,
I'm just going to add, because this is one that I really feel is important, is that when we label the district, we don't consider the whole entity. The district is usually this building, or the district's the board. That we really have to focus on the fact that the district is everyone. And so we don't have that common vision.
We don't have the we yet.
People have the W-I-I we, that's not the W.
But those of us don't have cell phones.
Although we listed this on the positive side, there may be a lack of partnership opportunities that have been taken advantage of with the major institutions in town, meaning the universities and others, that that hasn't been developed, or we haven't maximized those opportunities, so that's a resource there.
All right, let's move on to opportunities. What's on the horizon?
So given the importance of the community buying into the plan, which will be coming forth in the next several months, one of the things that we wanted to speak to you about is, what do you think are the specific steps which would be most valuable in gaining community buy-in to the plan itself once it's been developed?
Simplicity. That we could communicate a plan that people can get, and everyone can latch on to, say, oh, that's what we're doing.
I think a plan that's applicable to them. And by them, I mean different areas of our district. When I went out to Caroline to a town hall meeting there, and one of their first concerns was that we were cutting classes at the high school that pertained and their children were interested in. And so they felt that there was no reason, or very little, to be a part of this district. The same feelings. And so I think we had to show them their part, that they mattered.
Specific steps to, repeat that for me?
Specific steps that would facilitate community buy-in to the plan once it's been built and as it's also in the process of being built.
I would say, along with what was said earlier about making these things accessible, I think we need to bring it to folks, not expect folks to come to us. Right?
Come down into the valley.
Yeah, exactly. We got to take it to where folks are, where maybe they don't, where folks aren't used to having conversations around education. Firehouses, homes, churches, right? Places where folks are gathered. Maybe the upstairs at Wegmans, right? Those places where folks are, but they're not always talking about education. They get to.
I would say tie everything back to education, because a lot of things, like said that we need a better HR office, like a more robust one, but a lot of community members might not see the purpose in that. So if you like actually show how that will impact people's educational experience or how that will make things better, people in the community are going to be more willing to buy into that, because their initial thought is a school district is to educate people, not hire administrators.
Thank you.
Maybe making a town hall meeting geared towards younger children. Not necessarily super younger, but like, I know that one of the people who could be in the part of the board, or not a part of this board, but a part of that board, were high school students, but how would a high schooler know about it before? So you need to make the younger students aware of what these high schoolers on this board are doing.
Wendy, I appreciate you saying that, because one of the things that Jeremy and Jeffrey and I were brainstorming around is how can we recreate this for at least secondary students. It might be difficult at the elementary level, but getting into Boynton, DeWitt, ACS, and high school.
I'm trying to be pop. Can I add one, please? Told me to not talk. I'm trying hard. But key performance indicators for clear metrics, we have that one here now. I know that. Very important.
So KPIs
transition to KPI, key performance indicators.
And what was it? And benchmarks. Oh, metrics. Okay. Okay. Great.
You're about to go to the next one, and I wasn't going to be that long.
I was about to go.
I know.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, threats.
So I think one of the issues that was on our mind is, what really are the most pressing issues, and very specifically, what do you hear from people in the community? What are the loudest signals of feedback you're hearing from people on a regular basis that you would want to communicate to anyone involved in the process?
Taxes are too high.
Can you say that again, please?
So what?
I'm supposed to be fitting this under the heading of a threat. This question gets, okay, that's where I was struggling. I couldn't figure out what you were asking, so try it again. Under the heading of a threat.
They're in grad school, Brad, so I'm
having trouble following.
The words get really
I'm looking at the
long.
heading and saying the question had nothing to do with it, so I was struggling.
I guess the question is basically, what are the pieces of feedback or the threats which you hear most often from members of the community that are important that anyone involved in the process would know about?
But that's asking both positive and negative. The way you asked it, you're not asking a threat necessarily. You're asking for feedback that's both positive and negative, right or wrong. Do you want
negative feedback?
Do you only want negative? Is the answer?
Go negative, yes. Brad. Go negative.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. Clarity is important.
Very.
No, it is absolutely. Mm-hmm. This is a good way to make sure that we're being clear and to get bugs out. So absolutely, I appreciate it.
My nickname is Mr. Negative, so I'll start off with one. That we serve 80% of our students well, and we don't serve that 20% well, or whatever number, that percentage of students that we don't serve well. Because we could have great numbers with the 80%, and we do have great numbers with its graduation rates, but that 20% can fall by the wayside, and that's a real threat that we can tout our achievements, but yet still have that group of students who don't achieve like they should.
Okay. There are many parents who feel we don't serve or care about their children, so that they're grouped. They have, rural kids. Parents feel we spend time on city or urban, vice versa. And when you talked about putting out fires on the first one, if the fire's put out, the interest stops until the next fire comes. And
I hear, I think, from a lot of students in my classes around the school, which I think a lot of is based on rumors, is, you know, why are they cutting our teachers and making our classes bigger? And then yet they're hearing these rumors about the administration, you know, being such a, you know, a lot of rumors about how, you know, big the administration is and the pay for the administration. And I think either to quell those rumors and just kind of what Helen said about bringing it back to education.
I hear from a lot of other, particularly teachers, my plate is just too full. How on earth am I going to do more? How I'm already working so hard to do the right thing. How can we expect there, you know, something new and different? It's just, I can't get my head around how to do that too.
That our board or our district or our schools make decisions based on personality and not performance.
Okay.
Teachers losing their positions, so the teachers, how it would affect students. But that's what I hear from a lot of parents and students.
Ithaca arrogance. Arrogance, I am the best administrator. I know I don't have to listen. I'm the best teacher. I'm the, you know, my family, that kind of arrogance of, therefore I don't need to change because I'm it. I don't need to grow or learn.
So I certainly appreciate everyone's participation in this, and again, it will be run differently because it would be difficult with multiple groups of people to do it in this way. So we'll be breaking up into groups and table groups, and we'll jigsaw. So we'll move it through so everyone has a chance to respond in the 4 areas. So again, I thank you for participating in that.
So Leslie, definitely Jack, I'll ask a question. So then the qualitative analysis from the data we'll collect will then go before that group of 25, 50 people then to make some decisions.
25 to 30, Dr.
25 to 30. To make some decisions about goals, priorities, and metrics and strategies.
And again, Jeffrey and Jeremy's expertise will help to be able to measure and sort through some of that information. Yes.
I think I got left in the beginning. I don't understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of this?
No.
Oh.
The whole thing.
Okay.
Like when you have a strategic plan, my question is always for what?
Yes.
And so when you talk about goals and sitting and doing all these things, are you going to come up to tell them what is this plan for? Or are they going to devise the plan? Or
well, we have big ideas, but then the council will help to drill that down into more manageable pieces. Ask that question again, Judy.
Well, I think I have an answer to. I think I hear what you're saying. Because maybe I think we walk into these conversations saying we're here to define a world-class school district, determine how we're going to get there, and what it's going to look like. And so out of that, we'll have some goals and priorities, which we may already have in place, but then also some metrics we'll judge ourselves on, and then some key action steps that we're going to put in place. And typically, strategic plans are 5-year processes. I would present there should be an annual process. And we come to the table at this time of year, each year, look at our results, and then determine what we're going to focus on as far as the priority metric for the upcoming year. And if they're that dynamic, it'll be and I'm have this word down, continuous improvement. It will be a continuous improvement process. And we may go through this process every year, especially not paying $70,000 a pop for it. But I mean, if we do this well, it may be something we do every spring and summer to reevaluate where we are and determine what we're going to focus on the next year. Because I know in 3 months things have changed for me.
So if the goal is to be a world-class school system, then I can understand the next steps. Okay. So it's like the vision and how you're going to get there.
I'm glad that issue came up, and I'm glad you raised it, because part of my negativity towards strategic planning is like, okay, you know, the 5-year model. We're going to do this every 5 years, and you can put stuff aside when it's 5 years out, but I struggle with the idea of strategic planning versus regular planning, right? Like, you have to plan to do something, you have your goals, all that stuff is done, and this kind of special strategic planning is treated somehow different than the day in and day out stuff you have to do. So I'm happy that we're thinking of it in terms of, hey, every year we're going to look at where we're going, you know, and
could I walk you through one more example, even probably for the folks who are watching at home? Defining a world-class school district, we need to determine what engagement in our classrooms look like. So through this process, I'm sure with folks who will come to the table are going to have some expertise as far as what engagement looks like for students who are preschoolers or seniors. Once we establish that, we determine a metric that we're going to go after. So if it's going to be 40% of our students are going to be engaged, as determined by our walkthrough data, then we'll have that as a metric. We'll have quarterly updates to the board and to our community about where we are by school and by other districts as far as our levels of engagement in our classroom. If we get to the table at this point next year and our goal was to be at 40% and we're at 60, we may not have that as metric for next year. But I'm thinking it's probably going to be around 15 or 20, and we're going to have to put some additional strategies in place or allocate some resources for additional training or have some deeper conversations as a community or as an instructional leadership team around how to affect some more significant shifts with that particular metric. And that's just one, and I think that right now would fall under priority number 1. If we kept the same priorities in place, it will be a metric to help us get at priority number 1, which is around world-class, global citizenship, all those things, I think. I'm going to put that memorized, but I know it will be under that. Is that helpful, too, to make it more real about nuts and bolts?
And I actually liked what Dr. Brown just said as far as, at the beginning when he spoke about scrapping the term strategic planning and really, I mean, I love the concept of something around continuous improvement because it constantly speaks to the fact that we're not done yet and that there's something, we have miles to go before we sleep and that we need to continue to improve what we're doing and that if we hit a particular target, then it changes. We're continually improving. Okay? You summarized that slide well, so I don't need to do that. No, it's great. So just very quickly, what does our timeline look like? Excuse me. So tonight's the Board of Education presentation, and we're publicizing this. So some of our viewers, some of our community members have viewed this. We'll post the information on the website and get that out so people can begin to get acclimated to what we're endeavoring to do. In May and June, I'll be continuing to work with Jeremy and Jeffrey. We'll be reviewing strategic plans, seeing what's out there, what we consider to potentially be exemplars, and what we consider not to be exemplars, frankly. In July, Dr. Brown and myself will be participating in the strategic planning training, so really understanding what the process entails and how we move forward in the best of ways. Then August and September, we'll be working on the Strategic Planning Council's selection, which will be developing those rules of engagement and how we're going to select those individuals to be on the council, given those characteristics or skills that we were looking for, 21st century or any century skills, organizational management, etc. Then September, October, we'll move into the town hall community meetings, and I believe it was Josh who mentioned really coming down into the valleys and making sure that we are targeting and hitting all the varied individuals in our community, and again, doing that at varied times. So in the morning, over lunch, and in the evening, afternoon, evening. So we'll hold those community town hall meetings, and then we'll begin our strategic planning council meetings because we will have collected certainly qualitative data, but we need to figure out, we'll be working on what maybe quantitatively that looks like as well. We'll continue the meetings in December, and really the community vetting is really along the way, but we really want to make sure that at that point that the community is well aware of what we're bringing to the Board of Education. Then the goal is January 2012 is to bring this before the Board of Education and hopefully have a unanimous vote that they like what we bring, that you all like what we bring before you.
Can I just ask you again before you get rid of that slide? Could you talk a minute about, like I asked before, the board's role in this? I mean, is our role just to educate ourselves as this goes along, kind of sit in on some of this stuff, or how do you see us engaging in this, you know, besides that last kind of approval?
Both and. So involvement along the way, as far as the process, you all will obviously will do more Board of Education work sessions with you all to really get into the nuts and bolts and the meat of it. You'll be sitting in on town hall meetings. So it will really be two-way communication, yeah. It won't be that we spoke with you in April and then we don't have any more contact with you until January 2012.
And will that come from us, the level of engagement we want? Do I kind of say, hey, I'd like to be at that, or you just send it out and I show up, or is it going to be more kind of, you guys show up here, your role is this, or are we kind of free to engage? Like, how do you anticipate us?
All of the above is what I'm thinking. I mean, similar to how we interact in other ways, around the budget or all those processes. I think the board is a very active board and has some expertise which will be needed as we go through this process. But I guess to start, we need to hear tonight after questions and answers if the board is okay with what we put in front of you. I mean, there's still an opportunity for feedback related to our plan, or even if the board wishes to engage in this, because it will take some staff time to do this, and then we will be coming to you in January of next year to speak to you about whether or not you're okay with us moving forward with the metrics and the goals and the priorities and so forth. So that's the board decision-making timeline from my perspective.
Did that answer your question, Seth? Because you still look a little quizzical.
I guess I'll get it as it happens.
Had the same sort of question, and what I would like from you all is like reviews. I would be very interested in the strands of, you know, an excellent education. What are you going to concentrate on to make that happen?
Okay.
And I would think that we all would like input on that to make sure all our strands and so forth are.
That makes sense.
And we can structure this so that we put it before you as part of a stage process. I mean, we can start with the goals, and if you're okay with the overall goals and priorities, which you may be very okay with early on, and then we go to metrics, and we have the board approve those particular metrics, and then some of the strategies. Hopefully, the board will allow the strategies and actually the metric development to be staff work, and we come to you with a recommendation. The goals and the priorities is more board and community work for us as a staff. But the metrics and strategies that we'll bring before you as recommendations for you to approve or disapprove.
So I'm very much, nobody on the board will be surprised that I'm in favor of this process of strategic planning. And I'd encourage you to think about a couple things just with a slightly different twist. I'd encourage us to think about this as a democratic process. A lot of the vocabulary I'm hearing is very corporate, frankly.
Okay.
We're hearing, and it's almost dealing with people like consumers rather than participants. Stakeholders, it's not quite the same thing, right? And so and to that end, here's something again to think about. So we have some organization. We have some organization here. And we have some organizations that are in fact democratically organized themselves. And I would encourage us to think about them. People like PTA, SEPTA, our 5 associations are actually organized to deliberate. They don't typically do that, right? Except when it comes to our unions, for example, around collective bargaining, right? That's one of their things. But I would encourage us to think about how we might engage them as organizations in this process. We're also organized to some degree. I know we don't want to get into silos, but we're also sort of organized in schools also. You know, so there's a whole organizational component to this that I think is worth thinking about, right? For teachers, or for teachers, but we have a teachers association that we haven't really in the past engaged in that kind of meaningful way. And I don't know how they would respond if we asked, but Susan's here obviously. But, you know, but we haven't done that in the past. This would be an opportunity for us to think, like I said, democratically rather than corporately about getting everybody involved. It's a different model. It's a little bit different model, and I think we could be creative that way too.
If we'll get additional information when we go to that training, if we're able to move forward. So there's still components that we don't know what we don't know at this point in some instances, or in all instances. So we'll be working that through. But thank you. Yes.
Yeah, just piggybacking on what Josh said, the strategic plans that I've been involved in have been usually in business, and you mentioned a corporate, and that's sort of the limit. And this certainly is a different, it's something that I've never been involved in, to try and involve the community and all these stakeholders and all the people, and you can call them customers or whatever, or clients or whatever, and then to go with Seth said, I guess I'm a little bit unsure, and as he also said, maybe it'll become more apparent in time, what role the board is going to play or should play throughout the process. Because I do know that the strategic plans that have been complete failures are the ones where like a board is not involved and then something is presented at the end. And you go, oh, where did this come from? You know, and there's no buy-in, you haven't been involved. Maybe someone has, you know, anyway, there's been varying amounts of involvement. And so when I see Board of Education approval, town, I'm having a hard time, and you know, we're beginning and all this, and so I'm going to have to be open-minded. We'll go forward, but it is a little bit,
we'll go back and figure out how
it's a different model to try and like let's have everybody involved. And we face this a little bit in picking our superintendent when you go, well, let's go get everybody's view, but then wait a minute, who's making the decision here? And then, you know, if you go out and you ask their view and then you go, well, thanks a lot, but we're going to do what we want to do anyway.
I think their process went well, so we may just copy that. And check.
I'm taking that one in still for a minute. Still goes a little slower in the back to catch up to. Why did it work so well? Ithaca College has just gone through its own sort of 10-year strategic, what they're calling a strategic visioning process. They're coming up with a document that they've termed the IC 2020, right? In other words, what are we going to look like in 2020 is the idea. And so, not that you want to borrow that model, but it was a pretty involved process with every possible stakeholder that was involved with the institution as part, not everyone, at least the invitation was put out there for significant numbers of folks to participate. And so they're pretty pleased with the amount of participation, even though people won't be pleased with the final product. But the idea is, I think they were purposely going away from the idea of this notion of a strategic planning document to something they were calling, what is the vision that we want to look for? And they were saying it's easier to get folks to rally around a vision than it is a plan per se. In other words, that the vision needs plans to have tangible metrics that are you know, accountable, deliverable, things of that nature. But sometimes the language does shift how people sort of think and then think about their role in achieving buy-in, right? Because the goal was, if you're part of Ithaca College, then you're part of this plan as well. And where are we going to be in a couple of years, right? And so it seems that at least it's going to go through some current stages now, but at least it's been successful so far.
Okay.
And Cornell, as we all know, has tried to reimagine itself with varying degrees of success and buy-in and everything else. But for us, your calendar comes with a January end date of this process, this initial process. I mean, looking at Board of Education approval. So hopefully we would have, you know, a roadmap of where we want to go over the next few years. And of course, as we all know, you're starting in January, that's when the push comes to shove on creating a budget for it that year and going forward. So, you know, but a lot of what our decision making will be with our budgets going forward over the next few years, hopefully will be if that is possible. Otherwise, it's that dusty, you know, that dusty book on a shelf. So that's always right, and so that's timing's okay, and we'll build from there. But and we'll have more information by then whether we're building a great district in a 2% world dictated by Albany, or do we build the district as this community wants to build it. And we'll find out. Over this process, we'll have not just more inputs into what we have in our decision making, and along with everything else. So.
And similar to the budget process, the exec team and others are looking for your trust, because this is going to be all new. And it isn't very clear to us or you right now where the board is going to have some, and you asked me that same question in our first board meeting. When do we make decisions related to the budget? We're ready to do that right now. And I didn't have an answer for you. And I looked at the stairs, and I was thinking about how long I was going to be here. But you were looking at me because I didn't have any answers for you as far as when the board makes decisions throughout their process. But it was actually instead to just trust us to do the work and do a great process and come to you and inform you along the way. I think that process worked out well for us. I'm hopeful.
Informing us
Informing you along the way and informing the folks in the field about how the process is working. And so it's going to be a similar process, and it will continuously evolve and get better and get easier.
Right, and throughout the budget process, there's decision points along the way. Right. And it's not exactly. It wasn't just last week. There's decisions that we all came together and made throughout time that over the year, over previous years. Again, it's every year.
Well, just something I'd suggest that we think about as a board is, because we are the elected folks that are right in this democratic institution, that maybe we think of ourselves as being some of the conveners of this whole thing. That our role be in that role of bringing folks to this process, bringing folks together, being there to help facilitate those conversations, to be a part of it. That seems to me, it's not like we're elected by wards or anything so that we have a particular community that we need to go to, but we might, if we're involved at that level, I think that gives the process more credibility. We have to do the work to help make sure folks get there and so forth. Something that we could think about rather than just being the deciders, at given points along the way, or being informed along the way. We're more actively engaged in it. So it strikes me as the right role for a board of ed, but we can talk about that together. What that would look like.
So, just really in conclusion, the attempt tonight was to really address the us, who, now, when, here, and where. And so, unless there are other questions, that's really the conclusion of our presentation this evening.
And we still have to go on Thursday, even though we...
Yes.
You said we all had to go, Doug.
And laugh at my jokes.
No. Yeah. And it's Thursday at 7 o'clock in the auditorium in the Performing Arts Center. Yeah. I know where that is.
We need new jokes. We need new jokes.
I'm working on new material.
Could you put up the slide before, because I'm going to ask these two gentlemen.
No.
Yeah.
You're just going to go ahead and ask? You just do whatever you want, Judy. We're...
Which slide?
The timeline?
Yeah. What's missing from the picture?
They're too young. They don't know these things.
Where is the pumpkin?
Judy thinks assumes that that's a picture of McGraw Tower and it should have a pumpkin on the top. You guys didn't even go here, so you don't remember that. So that's
I get it.
Anyway, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
2001. So Dr. Myers, thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Is there anything else regarding this? It's not a strategic plan. It's called something else.
Come on, it's
a different term.
Vision plan.
We'll hit a reprise in a second, but other business by board members and superintendent, review coming meeting dates. Tomorrow, 5 o'clock, we need a quorum.
Not here.
We need a quorum to vote on the BOCES.
Tomorrow at 5?
That coordinated vote that we need to do to legalize the BOCES.
Can we vote tonight?
Where they say no.
They've said that in the past, but never figured out why. They said it had to be that day.
We can be here at 5 tomorrow.
I can make it.
I can. Right?
I have court at 4, but depending on how long that goes.
At 5?
I can try to find a way to get hold of Mr. Harris too.
I think I'm here. I'm 6:30 in Elmira. I think I'm here. I come.
How long does it take to get?
I know.
Sorry.
I thought that. I know. Right. You're right. Yep.
You can drive by and then go, and you can still have time for, you know, an hour. So we do need to do that. It is critical that we pass the BOCES budget. This is, for some reason, Margaret says it, BOCES says that we have to do it, coordinated vote at 5 o'clock. Why, I don't know. It's inconvenient, but if we can get 5, that's great, and I appreciate that.
Do we have 5 room?
I'll be here.
Jay will be here.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And Josh, right? So we've got 5.
Who's the fifth? You?
Sean's.
Sean.
Okay.
And apparently I'll be here.
Oh, good.
I have nothing else to do apparently, but it's okay. Anything else by board members? Any other business? Reprise? Anyone? Anyone? Nope. Hey, Chris?
Hi there. I just want to remind everyone, especially those of you who are viewing from home, the Race to Nowhere, the documentary that we're bringing to Ithaca with regard to the standardized testing and its effect on our students. Please come. It's next Wednesday evening at Cinemapolis at 7 p.m. and it'll go until 9, and we'll have a panel discussion after the viewing of the film. You can go to the website. If you just Google Race to Nowhere, you can find on the website where it's going to be held in Ithaca, and you can purchase your tickets online, $10, and then $15 for the door that evening. Please come. It's an excellent documentary.
We don't get in free? I mean, okay, no, that's it.
We'll have a conversation later.
But we appreciate that,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thank you. If there's no one else on the reprise, then we'll
To adjourn.
I'll second.
Shirley.
I'm going to say, Shirley Kennedy, English Department Chair, this is a way out of the box because of what Josh Bornstein said. I was thinking the same thing you were thinking for about 45 minutes. I worked in Asia for 10 years, so 10 years straight. So sometimes when I look at groups, I look through a different picture frame, and I was looking at, like, if I were taking a photo of this group, and I was thinking, it's a really exciting idea to have a world-class school. And I thought, what's missing from the picture? We've got the high-powered administration. We've got representing the all the the community members. We've got the students. Have we ever thought of having teachers? Because I was sitting here, teachers sitting in on the board like we have students. Because I was thinking, as you were answering those questions, I was thinking, I hope somebody speaks for me. I hope somebody speaks for me because I can't speak for myself. It's just an out-of-the-box kind of thinking. Maybe an elementary teacher, a middle school teacher, high school teacher, just something to think about.
Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you, Shirley. No one else? I think we're ready to adjourn. I heard that. Without objection, we're good. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Swing the corner.